Well, welcome back to the Conservative Party conference in Manchester, and actually a lot of the excitement is outside the hall. Nigel Farage has arrived, and according to Jim Pickard of the Financial Times, Farage tells Manic Press Scrum that the Tories banned him from the conference because they are terrified of him. In fact, the Conservative Party chairman said Mr Farage never applied for a pass, so I don't know quite whether he's been banned or not, but certainly it's not that welcome as far as the leadership is concerned. So what should the Tories do about the threat from UKIP in the polls, certainly taking some of their votes? I'm joined now by Marta Andreasen, who was indeed a member of UKIP before defecting to the Conservatives, and by Toby Young, who seems to be suggesting that as far as fighting seats is concerned, there ought to be some type of accommodation between the two parties.
Yeah, I'm not arguing for a full-blown electoral pact endorsed by the leaders of both parties, just a tactical voting alliance between supporters of both parties. So a website advising supporters of both parties which candidate is best placed to win the seat in 2015, and the hope that people will take that advice.
Does that mean not running candidates against each other, not having a Tory?
It could still work even if candidates do run against each other. So, for instance, UKIP supporters in Thurrock would agree to vote Conservative, and Conservative supporters in Thurrock would agree to vote... Sorry, the Conservative supporters in South Shields would agree to vote UKIP, and in turn you'd get a UKIP MP in South Shields, and the Conservatives would hang on in Thurrock instead of Labour replacing them in Thurrock and the Lib Dems hanging on in South Shields.
Presumably as someone who got fed up with UKIP, you would not welcome this idea.
Well, not at all, I have to say. But, you know, I don't know the grassroots in the Tory party because I'm new here, but I know the grassroots in UKIP. And they wouldn't want any type of pact or agreement, not even what you are proposing, because the people in UKIP look for an option to the three main parties, you know? So they are not just going to agree to some accommodation, as you say. They want people fight, the grassroots fight, for MPs from their own party to get elected. That's the reality. They want to be in power.
But all the analysis shows they are taking votes from the Conservatives, though, aren't they?
Well, they are taking votes from the Conservatives. They say they are taking some votes from Labour. But at the end of the day, you know, the only one who can deliver is the Conservative Party, really. The only one who can deliver a referendum, which is what most of people want, a referendum on the EU, is the Conservative Party. So I think, you know, if they take votes from the Conservative Party, then Labour will get in, and then we will not have this EU referendum. So I think it's for the people and the leadership of UKIP to think well what they are doing, actually.
I mean, that does seem to be the mainstream argument that's being made against voting UKIP, that if you want a referendum, actually you've got to vote for the Conservatives. This is what George Osborne has been saying.
I think that's a very...
Well, the short answer is no. And, you know, what the Conservative Party is doing is talking to the country. I think that's in marked contrast to all the other political parties who are talking about themselves and positioning themselves. We've got a big, simple offer to the country that the economy is on the right track, and we are going to see our plan through.
So he's saying no pact and it wouldn't work.
Yeah, well, he's saying no to a pact endorsed by the leadership, and I think the Conservatives will always poo-poo an electoral pact because they think getting into bed with UKIP would be toxic, it would alienate so many centre-ground voters that it would end up benefiting Labour more than it would benefit both UKIP and the Conservatives. But what I'm proposing, a tactical voting alliance, which was just endorsed by the grassroots and not by the leadership of either party, wouldn't have that toxic impact.
You've got a rather nice phrase for it.
I just posted in the Telegraph urging supporters of both parties to put aside the narcissism of small differences and come together in the national interest. Now, I think Marta's right. Not many UKIP supporters would be willing to countenance tactical voting, but it wouldn't take many. Tim Montgomery had a piece in the Times last week saying that had fewer than 3,000 people changed their minds and voted Labour instead of Conservatives in 2002, Labour would have elected a majority government and not the Conservatives.
Is there, in your view, a small difference between where the Conservatives stand and where UKIP stands?
No, I think there's a huge difference, and the difference is that the Conservatives can deliver. The Conservatives are in power. The Conservatives have helped the country get out of the crisis. The Conservatives are taking measures. Nigel Farage criticizes everybody, but he has never been in power. He has never been there to deliver, in a position to deliver. So it's easy to criticize everybody, but when you have to actually deal with the problem, he's not there. And you know, at the end of the day, people, when they go to vote, they need to vote for the person who actually can do something for them.
What you're effectively saying is that I was mature enough to see that the best interests of conservative-minded people would be served by becoming a conservative, but the people who voted for me are too small-minded to recognise that and would never actually do it.
See, look, I mean, this is.
I'm not saying this. These people voted because they are angry with the government. They were angry with Labour. Now they are angry with the Conservatives.
Okay, this is Bill Cash coming out of the meeting currently going on at the Bruges Group, saying, begging UKIP not to stand in the marginals, saying you will then be our allies and not our enemies. I mean, it does come down to withdrawing candidates or endorsing candidates, doesn't it? That's how Bill Cash sees it.
Well, I think what Nigel Farage argues for in this morning's Times are coupon candidates. He doesn't argue for it, but he says that if local UKIP associations are willing to petition the National Executive Committee of the party saying we want to run coupon candidates in our constituencies, we don't want to oppose Eurosceptic-minded incumbent Tories, we'll be willing to listen to their arguments. It's sort of a partial endorsement of the idea of coupon candidates.
Listen, there was a test of this in 2010 where Lord Pearson, who was the leader of UKIP at that point, stood in several constituencies. He's wearing a blue and a purple rosette. Mm-hmm. And this caused a huge row within the party. So I just don't see this happening.
Okay, can I just ask you, because you've worked with Nigel Farage, what is his game? What's he trying to achieve?
Well, I think his game is trying to achieve the best possible outcome for himself.
I mean, some people talk about a reverse takeover of the Conservative Party.
Well, I think that his vision, Nigel, you know, sees his future in the European Union, believe it or not. He sees himself as the leader of a European political party, Eurosceptic political party, but he sees his future there. And he has not actually actively campaigned to have MPs elected in Westminster. So, you know, now he is in a point, he's cornered. He's cornered.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. This afternoon,